Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another daily edition of Ask That. My name is Clark Sell, mechanic turned software practitioner, and we're here to talk about people's stories. We are looking to inspire you every day through their stories. We're looking to kind of share a little bit of that passion, ignite that spark. And today we're going to have a fun story. Today I have with me Beau Carnes. Thank you, Beau, for joining.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. I think we're going to have fun today. For everybody who's listening, today we're going to talk about how basically new job, like how you were recently a high school teacher and now you're a software professional, and that is a leap of there's a chasm in between, I think. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's totally cool. You have a ton of content on YouTube that's out there, great content. So I'm going to talk about that some. Why don't we start with just giving a quick intro to everybody on who Beau is?
Again, my name is Beau. I'm last year at this time I was a teacher, and now I'm a software developer. So there's a lot of things I did to get to this point that I'm hoping we can talk about. But in June, I got hired for my first software development job, and like you mentioned, I put out a lot of videos. I kind of trying to combine my love of teaching and software to create training videos for software. So I enjoyed teaching, and now I'm enjoying being a software developer also.
Well, what happened in the teaching part? Yeah, I mean, you have enough content since you just started your new job.
Mm-hmm.
And you have plenty of content out there, so you were already producing content as a teacher. How did I guess, what did you teach? Let's start there.
Well, I was actually a special ed teacher, so it wasn't really specifically related to software, but I did a lot of work I did some after school clubs. I coached a robotics team, and I did an after school coding club. So I was still doing stuff related to technology at the school, even though my specific job didn't necessarily have a lot to do with it. I mean, I still use technology, obviously. Even while I was a teacher, I started making the software tutorial videos. Actually, I started publishing them at the beginning of 2017.
Oh,
wow.
So
right now, so I have almost 100 videos out there, even though it's only been just over a year that I've been really creating content. So that's one thing. I got a degree in software development all online.
Okay.
And I did it while I was a teacher, and the school allowed me to work at my own pace. And so my own pace was super quick. I actually did the whole degree in 6 months. And so I got a bachelor's degree, and then I realized that I wanted to do more to kind of build up my portfolio and resume. And I was just kind of inspired by the idea of just trying to get content out into the world. And so I was reading a book that talked about that by Seth Godin, and he's the one that kind of inspired me how important it is to put content out there. So I just was like, I'm going to start making these JavaScript videos.
Yeah.
And so I just started publishing them, and that's really a key thing that I would recommend other people do is I've kind of come to describe it as building an authority piece, where when you're going to get a job, especially when you don't have a lot of work history to point to, you want to be able to show an employer that you know what you're talking about. And so over the course of the first half of 2017, I created an entire JavaScript course right on YouTube.
Yep.
And that's really something almost anybody can do. A key secret of mine about creating that course is that a lot of the things I created videos about, I didn't really know that much about them before I created the videos. So I actually had to research the topic to create the video on that topic. So it was like the process of creating the course made me into an expert.
Sure, sure.
So that's what I try to recommend to people trying to like get software jobs is that if you can develop some sort of learning resource, it really helps when you're going to get a job, you can point to this thing that you've created and you don't actually have to know about it before you start.
Sure.
I basically became an expert in JavaScript through developing this course. And I think not everyone can make a video course, but some people could like make like an ebook or even a blog just to be able to show that they have certain knowledge. And I know when I was going to get a job, it was super helpful that I could point back to like this course that I created.
Sure.
So
I mean, obviously you were a teacher. So kind of teaching, is kind of core to who Beau is. Did you find was it a hard leap to start creating the videos?
So I'm kind of in my third career now, but my first degree was in video production, and then I got a degree in teaching and then software. So the videos kind of combine all three of them.
Okay. But yeah, you're cheating. You're cheating here.
The truth is, I don't think it's even people that aren't coming from a background of having like a degree in video production. It's not anybody can learn to create like training videos because a lot of it was a screen capture. I didn't have to have any special camera or anything. I did buy a USB microphone,
sure,
but
sure.
You can get those for pretty cheap, and then just start recording your screen and start talking. And then I just use like simple. At first, I was just using iMovie to edit the videos.
Yep.
I guess that's another secret is that my videos make me look a lot better than I actually am.
Like, yeah, well, of course.
When I was creating the videos, there was a lot of mistakes, a lot of pauses, a lot of trying to figure out what to do next. And then when I edited it all together, I could edit out all those pauses,
yep.
edit all the mistakes.
Yep.
And then so when people go to look at it, they're like, whoa, this guy really knows what he's talking about. And they don't realize that this 5-minute video took me like an hour, to record and then even longer to edit. And
sure.
So
how long does it take? I mean, I know your videos are relatively short. How long does that process take from kind of start to finish?
Well, so when I was first doing it, I was actually posting videos maybe up to 3 times a week or more, and the videos would be anywhere between 3 to 8 minutes long, and just try to narrow down on one specific JavaScript concept.
Yeah.
And it would take me at least some of the video, the shortest would be an hour, even for like a 3-minute video, because first I would have to research the topic,
yep.
Then I would have to create the video, I would have to edit the video and like edit down things, figuring out what the code was going to be before the video, and then creating a thumbnail for the video.
Sure.
So usually longer than an hour, but I got into a kind of a schedule where I would actually wake up at 4 a.m. and make a video before I started work.
Yep.
So I got in a pretty good schedule because I have 3 kids, so it's really helped.
So 3 to 5 a.m. is like the sweet spot of
daddy
so like
time. Before the kids wake up, that's where I can really get stuff done. I know some people are like afternoon or evening, but by the time evening rolls around, I'm so tired from the day I can't even concentrate on doing anything. So
no, I
think
get
for
it.
me, the morning is the best time. But
sure.
Now the videos I've been creating, I've kind of been transitioning into creating longer tutorial videos.
Yep.
So sometimes up to like 30 minutes to an hour or longer. So those take quite a bit longer to develop. I don't actually time it out, but
sure.
First, like creating
it's more content. So.
It takes much longer to create the longer videos, but in some ways they can be more popular. Like people often want to see the full project from beginning to end. So
sure.
Yeah, but
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that once you start creating content, I found that kind of one thing leads to another. So when I first started posting the videos, they were on my own YouTube channel.
Yep.
And then pretty shortly after that, and another thing I did, so after I finished my degree, I realized I needed more projects. I made a few projects during the course of my degree, but I wanted to really build up my resume with additional projects. So I started, there's a lot of places online you can go that give you project ideas.
Yep.
And I ended up going through the free code camp curriculum.
Yep.
So free code camp, it's basically a free web development curriculum.
Yep.
And they're actually now a nonprofit organization just trying to help people learn software development.
Yep.
So I'd gone through a lot of that curriculum and developed projects through that curriculum, and which really ended up being super helpful on my resume. But because of my experience in that community, the person who kind of heads it up is named Quincy Larson, and he asked if I wanted to start publishing my YouTube videos on the Free Code Camp YouTube channel.
Yep.
So that was super exciting because my channel had about a little over 100 subscribers.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think the Free Code Camp channel had 170,000 or something like that. It had like way more subscribers than mine. So yeah, it was pretty exciting. So then I got a much wider viewership.
Totally.
And then that actually led into something else where there's a book publishing company called Manning Publications that makes my software books.
Yep.
And so they saw my videos on the Free Code Camp channel, and they reached out to me about creating a video course for Manning Publications. Now, and historically they've been mainly a book publisher, but recently they've been trying to get more into doing videos. And so I was kind of in the earlier content creators for video for Manning Publications. So I was able to, I've completely created a course on algorithms, and now I'm working on a second course with Manning Publications, and all basically started with me posting to my own small YouTube channel, built from there.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's fantastic. I mean, it's that notion that none of this is too hard, right? None of it's out of reach. If you have your barrier to entry is just getting a computer. Once you have a computer, like there's nothing stopping you from creating a course. There's plenty of free software out there like iMovie on the Mac and whatever's on Windows to edit your stuff and do your homework, put it out there. And obviously it's led to a good fortune. Would you say your career change found you, or did you find it?
I guess it was a little bit of both. I've always been interested in software and kind of done, like, especially web development. I've been creating websites for a while, but they were all super basic, not anything with JavaScript, just like basic HTML and CSS.
Sure.
And so, I was just, I don't know, I had done things as a teacher with software with the after school club where we did Scratch. Scratch is like basically a programming language for kids. And then this robotics club, which there was some programming in that. And one thing I noticed, so I taught in a low income school district.
Sure. And
I taught pretty much almost in every grade level. And I ended in high school, and I noticed that a lot of the students, they all had cell phones, but very few of them had computers at home. So it's very challenging to learn software development on a cell phone, So basically, a lot of these students have very little access to really learn software, and a lot of the jobs, like when I would talk to students about what they would want to do, a lot of the jobs were things that in 10 to 20 years are going to be basically automated. Some people would say a truck driver or like lawn care. And there's multiple times where I was talking about that. I was like, I asked students what they want to do, and I said, well, that's probably going to be automated soon. Like one student in particular, he wanted to do lawn maintenance, and he was like, no, there's no way that's going to be automated. And so I quickly brought up a YouTube video of a robot lawnmower. So I was like, that's already automated. So I realized that a lot of, at least I felt like maybe it was particular to my school, but it seemed like a lot of the students were not being prepared well for the jobs of the future. You
Sure,
know, I think
sure,
school has done a great job preparing students for like the jobs of the past. You know, the jobs of the past involved, and maybe even some current jobs, are mainly about just doing what you're told, like doing what the same thing everyone else is doing, like learning one specific thing, just continuing to do that over and over again. And a lot of those types of jobs are going to be automated. I mean, if you can't like think
yep,
critically and
yep,
do
yep,
something different than what everyone else is doing, it's there's not going
yep.
to be as many jobs like for in the future. So I was just I'm hoping, though, so I'm a full-time software developer, but I'm also very interested in trying to kind of um, still work with youth and try to help some of the youth that don't have access to, you know, technology
Sure,
education
sure.
to basically, you know, get them
Yeah,
some of these skills.
yeah.
Um,
Where,
so
where do things like the Raspberry Pi fit in? Were you? I mean, that's a $20, $30. Well, is it even $30? I mean, that's a pretty cheap device. Is that does that help bridge that gap?
Yeah, definitely. I think Raspberry Pis are great. I mean, it's a great way to especially like introduce students to different like technology and programming, and so yeah, the when I taught this robotics club, it was through an organization called First Robotics,
Yep.
and they have kind of they don't use. I guess you can technically use Raspberry Pis, but that's not the
Yep.
primary thing that you use. So
Yep.
so I didn't do that much with Raspberry Pis during
Sure.
that, but I think it's a great way to kind of learn more about technology.
Sure. So you recently just became a software. So you're a teacher. You created a bunch of awesome videos. That's led you down some other paths of, with Manning. You've recently got a software job. What in that, like, what's the Beau hacks of, like, hey, I was a teacher, I'm now a software developer. Like, what worked out well for you there? Like, what was the
Okay, yeah,
sauce?
well, so two of the things I already talked about, which was developing some good projects for your resume, and then developing some sort of authority piece that's gonna, like my video course or an ebook or
Sure.
a blog that's gonna show you that you know what you're talking about. For projects, besides doing the free code camp projects, I also reached out to people I knew that had companies or organizations. I ended up creating a website for a local church that was almost like Craigslist, where so this wasn't just like a static website. This was a whole web app where people can submit needs that they have, and then other people can kind of get on it and try to meet those needs. Kind of like
Oh,
Craigslist,
nice.
but without
Oh,
without all the
nice.
money, and it's all
Yeah,
like
it's very cool.
people trying to meet each other's needs.
Sure, sure.
And so that was definitely super helpful to have on my resume. And then another
Sure.
project I made for just like a regional newspaper, I made an app. It was an Android and iOS app, but it was made with Ionic, which you
Yep.
can make it once with Ionic and it goes to both
Yep.
systems.
Yep.
And just having it was really good in interviews to be able to talk about my work with real clients on real jobs. So
Yep.
it's good to have your own projects, but if you can have experience with some real clients, the church thing I did all as a volunteer
Yep.
for this regional newspaper. I got paid, but it was pretty low, well below market rate. So even
Sure.
though I wasn't getting paid very much, I would say those projects really financially paid off for me because they were super. They mean just being able to put them on my resume, talk about them in the interviews, really helped me get a better job.
Sure.
And then another thing that I think is very important is networking. I mean, everyone has heard that a lot of jobs are through
Yep.
people you know.
Yep.
And when you're just getting started, you may not know very many people. So one thing I did, I got this from an article I read by Hasib Qureshi, who's a software developer. And he wrote a long article about getting a software job. And one thing he suggested was just cold emailing software developers. And this is exactly what I did. I would, look up people at companies I wanted to work for, or maybe people that are just like second or third connections on LinkedIn, and I would email them, not through LinkedIn. I would find their email address some other way, so it'd be more personalized.
Sure.
Like I would try to find either their personal website or
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
their company website,
Yep.
and I would just said basically, hey, I'm a teacher. I'm looking to switch to careers to software development. And I would say, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee so I could ask you some questions about the industry and
Oh, very
about your
nice.
company?
Yeah.
And I had quite a bit of success with people saying, yeah, sure, let's get together.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
and I was, I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan,
Yep.
and I was living on the other side of the state in Saginaw, but I knew I wanted to move to Grand Rapids. So that limited the amount of meetings. I was planning all these
Sure.
meetings
Yeah. Distance
in Grand
problem.
Rapids, but so I would take days off from work and then schedule like 6 to 8 meetings back to back with people.
Oh, yeah.
And
Totally.
so I drive over early in the morning, meet with a bunch of people, and drive back. So I could have met with even more people, but I still had quite a few, like multiple days I came to meet with
Sure.
people, and it really paid off. I mean, so one, I got to know what kind of companies look for in this area, because different regions have different focuses on technology. I mean, obviously different companies have different focuses, but some regions have different focus. And I was able to like ask about the interview process. I mean, one thing I specifically did find out that I read all these things like about interviewing. I saw about cracking the coding interview and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I found that at least in the Grand Rapids area, which is where we knew we wanted to live at, there weren't a lot of whiteboard interviews. Like
Sure.
there was
Okay.
more like maybe take home projects and and things where you didn't necessarily have to be writing a whole program out on a whiteboard.
Sure.
So
Sure.
so it kind of helped me know what things to prepare for in the interview. And because I think it's because different regions are different, you have to kind of talk to people in that area to
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
know what things are
Yeah.
going to be like.
Sure.
And also it led to some other things. Like a few of the people I met with were CEOs of companies, and generally it's smaller companies.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
one CEO invited me to come back later for a mock interview. So that was a super cool experience where I got to do an entire. I mean, they weren't hiring at the time, but I got
Sure.
to do an entire interview to
Practice.
kind of get experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
they
super
treated
cool.
me just like they were going to hire somebody. And then they actually, a few months later, because this is all while I was finishing up at school year. So I knew I had a few months until I was going
Sure.
to actually
Sure.
try and get a job. And then when I went to get a job, that same company that I got the mock interview brought me back for a real interview. And
Nice.
so they,
And hopefully it was like the mock interview, right? It wasn't like
what,
complete.
it was, well, it was, I couldn't make it back in person. So then the mock interview was in person. The real interview was actually all
Sure.
over a teleconference. So that definitely changed things. And they had more like coding challenges I had to do in the real interview that
Oh,
I didn't
interesting.
have to do in the mock interview. But, and then they wanting to hire me, but then it ended up working out well because, there was another company I met with that from someone I met with, I got an interview, and then the company I got hired at was not someone I didn't meet with anybody at that company, the company I got the job at, but since I had multiple, I think the networking was still helpful because since I had some other companies interested in me because of the networking, I was able to negotiate for a higher income, or a
Oh,
higher
sure.
salary
Yeah. Totally.
at the company I ended up working at. And then, even though I just started software development in June, just about a month or two ago, I started at my second software job. So I've already kind of transitioned to a new company. And this company, the CEO of this company is someone I did meet with back
Okay.
almost a year ago. It was like 10 to 11 months later after I met with them. Now I'm getting a job at this company. So networking can kind of take a long time to really pay off.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
So,
Totally. Let's go back to the YouTube bit for a bit. I mean, a lot of people have seen your content. Like your reach is certainly out there. I mean, tens of thousands for. I
mm,
mean, some of your stuff is 50,000 plus views on it. Has there been hard points? Like I mean, it's easy to say it's out there, it's been viewed by
Oh, yeah.
others, but I mean, what's been kind of the negative side of that?
Um, well, definitely, people on the internet aren't known to be the most positive people all the time. So there's been quite a few, like negative comments about like people that didn't like different things about the video.
Sure.
But to some degree, some of those comments I was able to turn around and was like some people would point out things that I did wrong and then they were right. I did do those things wrong,
Sure,
So
sure.
it helped me to grow as a developer to like when you it's kind of, risky to put out stuff out there
Yep, yep,
and to kind of open yourself up for criticism. But some of that criticism, not all of it, some people just say bad things about anything, whether
yep.
it's right or not. But, some actually helped me realize there were better ways to
Sure.
write, do different things. And then another thing, I did when I was going to get a job. Again, I was trying to look for things to set myself apart when I was going to get a job. So this is going to relate back to your question, but I read about something called like the bad resume, where there's an idea I read about where your whole resume is bad things about yourself, and I didn't want to. It seemed pretty too extreme to me to have my whole resume, but you kind of write in such a way where it still
Yep.
kind of shows some good things. But I did have one section on my resume called bad references
Sure.
where I put two different, basically internet troll comments, things that people said that were really bad about me in internet comments, and I put it right
Yeah.
on my resume. So this is kind of relates to like bad things that have come out of the videos that ended up actually turning out really good because multiple companies were like, yeah, I really thought that was cool, like just like a
Great.
refreshing thing to see these bad comments. And I think it kind of, in some ways, showed that I was confident in myself enough to put
Yep.
some of those things on there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the hope, I linked to the original comments. So my hope was that if people linked to see what they were commenting on, it would actually,
Show all the good.
reflect better on me because they
Yeah,
would
yeah.
see what the thing
Sure.
was, and it wasn't really as bad as they were saying. So uh, that was another thing that people can try is just
Sure.
putting in bad references on
Sure.
their
Sure.
resume. But
Do
as far as
you
other bad things, I mean, it's mainly been positive. I mean, it's mainly been a positive experience. I haven't had just like putting things out there. You just have to be okay that people are not going to like everything you do. You're going to get thumbs downs.
Yep.
You're going to get people saying bad things, but
Yep.
that's going to, no matter how good your stuff is, that's going to happen. So
Sure.
you just have to learn to deal with some of that stuff.
So you've recorded a lot. What does your kind of update look like? I mean, obviously you recorded something at a point in time, or you learned something new. Do you go back and re-record? Do you just say, all right, well, it was done here, and we're go on to the next
Oh
thing?
yeah. Well, so one thing, probably a lot of people are familiar with that on YouTube, you can't change a video after it's there. You can delete a video and re-upload a video, but then you lose all the view count, you lose all the
Ah,
comments and everything. So there's not really, so the best you can do, and it used to, when I first started making videos on YouTube, you could put little messages that would pop up over the top of the
yep,
video.
yep.
And sometimes I would use those to correct things, but then YouTube took that away. So now the best you can do is put a comment or change the description. So some things where I like made mistakes, I put in the comment or description.
Sure.
And as far as um, there's really not a lot of. I don't often go back and re-record a video because
Sure.
just because then it kind of could get kind of confusing about like which is the right video to watch.
Sure.
That is one good thing about Manning Publications though, because they have their own platform for displaying the videos.
Sure. Sure.
So it hasn't happened yet, but if people find a mistake, I
Sure.
can easily re-record it and they can
Sure.
update it, and it doesn't matter whether
Yeah. Yeah.
it's easy to update things on that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess lesson there is just be pretty explicit about time versions, this was recorded using this version of JavaScript, and in the future things will change. So, come back to channel to see if there's something new, but you recognize that this is on this version at this time.
And I just assume that I know when I'm looking for video, like programming videos, I definitely look at when they were posted, because things change so quickly in software that now, like, my first videos I was posting was over a year ago. So my guess is that if people are looking for a video about a certain topic and they see the video is over a year old, they may, at this point, they're going to look for a newer video. So
maybe, they could be working on that thing, right? Just because it's a year old doesn't mean, maybe their enterprise dealio is just now getting to that.
I guess that is a good point, because even my current job, I have to work with in projects where the programming language is not the latest version of that language, So I guess it's always going to be relevant, because there's always legacy code and things you have to work on. So
right. You really get a. It'd be really interesting to talk to Beau in 15 years to see how that variables, the JavaScript variables class video is doing, and maybe as time goes on, it'd probably be pretty interesting to see like the viewerships of things, and I bet you could draw some pretty neat correlations between these videos. Kind of all spiked on a certain day, like what happened on that day? Was there a node release or something, and they just kind of come across your thing? Who knows?
Yeah, one thing that's interesting, I think one of the videos that I have a lot of views is the variables one you were saying, and it has just over 50,000, and that was posted a super long time ago. But then I have a video that was posted last month that has over 10,000, so it's already like 20% views in a lot less time.
Sure.
Probably, I don't know if it's just because people like more of the longer form full project videos, which is this recent one was, or if just people are starting to get to know the channel more, so they're more like it. So we're getting more new viewers.
Sure. So before I ask my last question, at the end of these, I like to extend a bit of gratitude and acknowledge you. And I'd like to acknowledge you for the work that you have done. I think it's super cool. I know that I've run across your stuff organically, not just because of this. So thank you for being on here. Thank you for the massive amount of publishing you've done. I know that it's clear that it's helped tens of thousands of people in some capacity across that. And I think it's really cool to hear your story and how it's led to other things. So, thank you for putting yourself out there and sharing. With that, I guess my last question would be, what would be your advice for somebody who's listening today? Like, what would Beau Carnes' advice be?
Let me try to think of something that so one of the big things is like putting content out there. I think, you probably know this yourself, because now that's what you're doing here right now. You're putting content out in the world, and the more stuff you can put out there, work that you've done, the more people can find out about you and possibly have good things come back toward you.
Sure.
And also, obviously it's not just about having good things come back toward you. The more things you can put out there, the more you can help other people.
Yep.
All the stuff on, all the stuff I've released, like on the YouTube, it's all obviously free. It's an ad-free channel. So it's basically just for people learning. They don't have to deal with any ads or anything. So I think the important thing is whatever you're learning, try to find a way to teach it, and it's going to help solidify your own knowledge and just help you make connections in the industry.
Yeah. And I guess I'd tack on to that too. I'd say, just because somebody else has taught it doesn't mean, if it's something that somebody's passionate about and would like to teach, I would say go teach it, because your voice may be something that resonates with somebody where my voice isn't. And so,
that's a good point, because almost every video I've made, someone else had previously made a video about that very topic. Sure. But I still get people sending comments to me that they just really like the way that I put things, or maybe they like, one thing I try to do is just make shorter videos compared to like longer videos, and just the formatting of the video. Uh, Everyone has something to, like, there's so many different learning styles. There's
Yep.
so many
Yep.
people out there that
Yep.
learn better from different people, from different ways of putting things. So uh, definitely don't be intimidated if there's already a lot of resources out there about that topic,
Yeah.
because there's going to be people out there that have trouble learning from all those. Even like top rated resources, there's some people that don't like those resources, and they
Yep.
may like someone else's way of putting it even better.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much. Well, with that being said, this wraps another edition of Ask That. I would ask everybody who's watching, we'd love to know what's worked for you. Have you recorded? What tools have you used? Leave a comment for Beau and I so that we can engage and talk about those strategies. Certainly go check out Beau and all the stuff that he has out there. Beau, how do people get a hold of you? Where can they find more about Beau?
Yeah, I guess if you just go to my personal website, it's carnes.cc. So it's spelled CARNES.cc. And then there you'll get linked to all my other ways of contacting me.
Absolutely. We put all that in the show notes. And with that being said, thank you, Beau, for being here on this glorious Friday, although I'm on the other side of the pond. So I've got your tomorrow weather, which I'm
Oh,
telling you,
yeah.
it's fantastic, brother. You're
Okay,
going to
I'm
love it.
looking forward to it.
That's right. We're sending all the good stuff across the pond to you.
Uh,
Thank you, sir. Thank you for what you've done out there. And we'll see everybody next time on Ask That.
Okay.